Welcome to Trial Lawyer Prep. What if you could hang out with trial lawyers and jury consultants? Ask them about connecting with clients and juries more effectively. Then take strategies, tactics, and insights to increase your success. Each week, Elizabeth Larrick takes an in-depth look at how to regain touch with the everyday world, understand the emotional burden of your clients and juries, and use focus groups in this process. Elizabeth is an experienced trial lawyer, consultant, and founder of Larrick Law Firm in Austin, Texas. Her goal is to help you connect with juries and clients in order to improve your abilities in the courtroom. Now, here's Elizabeth.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Larrick, and I'm glad you're here today. This episode is going to be a bit different from my normal style. I am going to be sharing information about my on-demand course, DIY Virtual Focus Groups for Beginners. I've talked quite a bit about virtual focus groups on this podcast. That's not normal. Even if you're just now joining me, you may have probably heard some other episodes that were in the feed or that you saw before. Episode 19, episode 20, episode 80, and a great interview with Clint Schumacher on DIY focus groups. All those links will actually be in the show notes if you want to go back and take a look at those. What I found, though, is that it was a little bit of a piecemeal information, and I get a lot of questions in my email inbox about running virtual focus groups and several pitfalls that people may run into. And so I decided that I could create a course to help folks that are out there either getting started, they're interested in it, or maybe they're running them at their own office right now and they're just getting stuck. But before I did that, I went out and I looked at what resources right now are available for lawyers specifically that gives them a full picture on creating virtual focus groups, not just the recruiting piece, but also the presentation piece and the moderating, which can be really challenging for us because sometimes it turns into cross-exam. And knowing that the importance of running your own virtual focus groups, having that information to make decisions in your case is really key. That's how I was able to run my law firm. I learned how to do them and put it into practice very quickly to help me make decisions because I didn't have a lot of resources. So I wanted to make sure that I could maximize my cases that I had with basically the resources I had to put into them. And I just really didn't want to pick the wrong case to go to trial on and possibly lose or make the wrong decision about investing in a case that really wasn't going to get very far with the jury. And I believe every lawyer should have access to jury research, no matter where you are, because it really helps overall with running your law firm, making good decisions, and having a lot of confidence and assurance in what you're doing when sometimes it feels like you're just operating in a vacuum. There are not very many other resources that we can really use to get feedback about what other people, jurors, actually people who are making decisions about the cases think, right? We can talk to their lawyers, and that's nice. That experience is good. But if you've ever been a trial, you know it's never going to go exactly as somebody else's trial has gone. And so you just want to make sure that you're testing that. So I looked at my process. I looked back at what people were asking me. I ran several webinars back as well in March and February to help kind of give some information to see where things were needing, where people were lacking. And I even did other polls to ask lawyers. And what I found what I've created was a live 3-session Zoom sessions where everybody could come in and ask questions and go through the material together. There's so much material that I created a workbook to go along with everything. And of course, you record everything, which is now what this episode is about, the on-demand version of that course. It's still all the great information about the very actionable steps that you can take along with options. I know that my way is not the highway. There are lots of ways that folks run focus groups. And so I tried to provide those options as well for you, along with, really an overview with timelines that you could look at and thinking through the ability to delegate, to staff members. And so I really encouraged lawyers and their staff to join our meetings that we had back in May. Again, that's exactly what this episode is about. That on-demand course that is now available until December 1st, and access will be available all the way through the end of 2024. And what I've also done is, because it's so vital for us to be able to ask questions and get information, is I've also scheduled an Ask Me Anything on December 2nd so that we can get together and you can pick my brain and I can ask you questions as well about how things are going. And also, the platform that is hosting the course allows for a lot of community interaction, a lot of posting. And that I feel like is always really helpful when you're doing something new and you have questions, and lawyers are really good about questions. You immediately can go there, post a question, and get an answer. Okay, so that's really, I think, a helpful part of it as well. And what can you really gain from taking this course? Well, number one, DIY, do it yourself virtual focus groups, right? Getting yourself literally those step-by-step actions to get over that starting place where you're thinking, how do I get started? And naturally, that's going to save costs. And that's going to make it really convenient for you and your office to get answers on questions. But really, what is gained is confidence and certainty in the evidence that you have, and assurance that you have been able to flip those negative facts into either positive or even just neutralize them. Really being able to issue spot things that you can't see as a lawyer, right? We've always got some blind spots, especially when we are really invested in a case. It's hard to see the other point of view. And that's where focus groups are so awesome at seeing things that we can't. Themes, being able to really look at those facts and targeting concerned areas with these 1 hour, 2 hour, even 3 hour virtual focus groups, and getting the clarity that you want, right, to make decisions about cases. And here recently, right, I had a lawyer who perfectly summarized it. He said, I'm so relieved because you give this presentation and hearing their feedback that we don't have to go into a trial and really educate people about something so boring as our case. And it's like, yes, it is so much simpler than what we make it to be, right? We tend to complicate things because we have so much information and facts. And really, that's where a focus group, even a short focus group, can help you see the simplicity of the case without needing complication. And of folks that have taken this course, right? I mean, one of the reviews that I've gotten is that, it's the course has information about gathering people. It have forms for different types of focus groups that are available, and even interpreting the information, which is kind of critical, right? We want to make sure that we interpret things correctly. So all of that is packaged right into 3 on-demand videos and 3 workbooks that go with that. And the workbooks just kind of accentuate, meaning they're going to give you more information than what is in the video, but you can go in there and play the videos that you need. Again, having you and staff be able to have access to those so everybody's on the same page. And then again, that December 2nd, Ask Me Anything, so everybody can come in and get their questions answered. It was definitely one of the highlights of the live version that we had in May, because there is just so much information in there. And sometimes, it's hard to necessarily connect everything. Plus, there's always generally a nuanced question that folks have about maybe their particular practice area, or how do you focus group this topic or this problem, right? So that's always a great question to ask as well. So if you're interested in learning more about the on-demand course, head over to elizabethlarrick.com/on-demand course focus groups. Long link, I understand. It'll be in the show notes. So if you're driving or walking, just check those show notes later to find that link. And plus, if you are just not sure if doing your own virtual system for jury research is what you'd like to do, then go back to those episodes I mentioned before, 19, 20, 80. Again, the links will be in the show notes to see, is this something that I want to do? And, I encourage folks that it is much simpler than you think to get it started. And of course, it feels simple to me because I've been doing it for years. But I want every lawyer who is practicing in this space, plaintiff personal injury, employment law, business litigation, to have a tool to help them make decisions and also educate their client. That's one of those things that sometimes we have clients that are really fixated on certain facts and certain pieces of their damages, which maybe just don't hit the jury the same way, right? And it's hard for them to understand that until they actually see it. And that's just one of the benefits that you have is you can run one of these focus groups right when you need it with the perfect amount of time that you need with an efficient cost and get that answer and then be able to move forward in the case. So many times what I see people do is really hesitate when it comes to getting information to move a case forward. And the hesitation could be there's other cases going on, or, well, that mediation got moved, so I'll just wait to do that later. That's not a pressing thing that I need information on. I'll just move it down, right? You reprioritizing things based on trial dates and expert depositions and mediations. Here's where that becomes a huge problem. That's really underestimating the amount of amazing information and perspective you will get from a virtual focus group. And you will want to marinate on that information because initial blush, maybe you want to, run to the bathroom and Ralph because it's all terrible information. But once you really need to digest it to be able to see, oh, okay, wait a second. Let me get a little bit deeper here on what they're saying and really try to integrate this into the case earlier than waiting. Because many a times what happens is at first blush, it sounds like they're putting your case in the garbage pan, right? Like they don't like it. It sounds like they're creating more problems for you than not. But most of the time, if you sit with it, go back over it, and this is where that interpretation comes from, you realize I can answer all of these questions, but wow, I need to make that really clear up front. And how do I do that now with what I have left, right? Like maybe it's the mediation presentation, maybe it's these expert depositions that I need to get those questions in up front and very clear so that the jury has those answers. They're not sitting there wondering about these things. And again, the longer we can marinate on this feedback, the more we can integrate it into our cases and make them better. Even if at the end of the day, it's going to be a settlement, that's okay because most of the decision makers on our cases fit more into the jury pool than they do on our side of things, right? They've got very few of things, but having a little bit of clarity and simplicity fits everybody because our brains love that. That is persuasive. And that's a huge piece of what you can get from running your own virtual groups. Okay, well, I hope that this episode, although different than the normal ones, was helpful. And maybe if you're not ready yet, that's okay. This is still a good place to maybe peruse the page, look at the information and see like, okay, listen to the other episodes. Maybe this is, maybe this isn't. But just know that that is available for you until December 1st. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.